Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So I'd like to welcome you all to TRT8, and thank you for coming. And I would like to just introduce one or two things now, and then I'll give you more instructions later at morning tea. First, you should have the abstract book and also an A3 size paper with extra abstracts. If you don't have that, please put your hand up. Who does not have the extra handout? So one of the staff will bring you the extra abstracts, please, to the people who don't have. Okay? So, we're going to basically follow the program as written for this morning, and it's printed on the first page of the abstract book. And the theme of this morning's session is bioethics and the human idea map. And so I'm going to introduce everyone. So I'd like everyone in the room for this part to introduce. So my name is Darryl Mesa, and I think I know most of you. And I would like everybody in the room to please introduce themselves now. Okay. So we're going to start with Professor Shoji, who's the Vice Chair of TRT. Could you please stand up when you introduce? And also, everything in this meeting will be videotaped. So please do your hair. Thank you.
My name is Shinichi Shoji. I'm a neurologist in this Institute of Clinical Medicine, University of Tsukuba. Welcome to University of Tsukuba.
I am Jayapal Acharya from India, Chennai, and the President of the All India Bioethics Association.
My name is Dina Singh. I'm from Taiwan. I teach in the medical school of Taiwan, and I also now is my first year's doctor program in biomedicine.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Part2A. Came from Center for Bioethics, Chinese Academy of Medical Sciences, and taking Union Medical College. And as you know, I was a former student of Darryl.
My name is Jung-ro Yoon, and I'm from Korea. I teach sociology at Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, and I was trained in the United States as a grad student. And I am in charge of the Korean ELSI project, ethical, legal, and social implications of human genomics. And what else do I have to say? Thank you.
I'm Leo De Castro, Chair of the Philosophy Department of the University of the Philippines. I'm on the UNESCO International Bioethics Committee and on the board of the International Association of Bioethics, the Asian Bioethics Association.
My name is Tobias Bauer. I'm from Germany. Currently I'm a PhD candidate at Munich University, and in the moment I study at Kyushu University.
I'm Alana Razumti, pediatrician, consultant for parental medicine and an child. I work as the advisor of the government of United Arab Emirates, Ministry of Health.
My name is Toru Yamashita. I teach social studies at Higashimurayama High School. Nice. Welcome to Japan.
My name is Ali Reza Bahiri. I'm from Iran. I'm doing PhD course here. Nice to meet you.
Hello, my name is Sakae Kishida. I'm from Japan, and I'm a master student at this university of Tsukuba. And I'm studying on the relationship between human beings and other creatures from the ethical perspective. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aki Sebastian Ruhl. I'm a visiting student in Tsukuba, and normally I'm from Germany.
Good morning. My name is Frank Levitt. I'm from Israel. I teach bioethics and philosophy of health in the Faculty of Health Sciences of Ben Gurion University of the Negev in Beersheba, Israel, in the Center for Asian and International Bioethics within the faculty that I just mentioned. I'm looking forward to becoming a student of Darryl's and learning what I can from his proposal for an integrative human idea map.
おはようございます。皆さん、私の名前は岩ソルタビラヤツです。So that's pretty much all Japanese I know. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Once again, my name is Iva Sorta-Bilajac. I'm from Croatia. I'm a medical doctor. I work as an assistant at the Department of Social Sciences at the University of Rijeka, Faculty of Medicine. I'm Professor Shegota's assistant. I think many of you know my boss. He couldn't come this year because he's experiencing some health problems, but he sends you to all his warmest greetings. I work now on my, at the moment on my master's degree. I'm also a member of Croatian Bioethical Society, and on that department I teach medical ethics, clinical bioethics, nursing ethics, and communicology medicine. Thank you.
My name is Soltan. I'm coming from Slovenia. I'm a lawyer. I'm a PhD candidate in international law at the University of Maribor in Slovenia. And I would like to thank Darryl for inviting us to this conference. Thank you.
My name is Steve Collins. I'm from the University of Washington in Seattle, the United States. I teach international studies. My field of specialization is East Asia. And I've done a lot of research in Japan, but my main focus has been science and technology policy, comparative science and technology policy. Bioethics is kind of a new area for me, but I'm interested in exploring the politics of bioethics, and in particular how bioethics works its way through the political processes of different countries, and how can we explain the policy outputs that we see. And I'm very pleased that I've been able to make the connection with Professor Macer in this regard and share our interest in this.
Well, let's continue around the table first.
Okay, my name is Richard Clark. I work for a Japanese pharmaceutical company. I'm a friend of Darryl. He invited me to be this morning. So, I'm nothing to do with bioethics at all, but I'm hoping to learn a lot.
So you say.
Pharmaceuticals, yeah. In fact, he's the only one who carries around the Declaration of Bioethics in his wallet.
Yes, this is true.
Hi, my name's Morgan Pollard, and I'm a PhD student in Sustainable Development at Southern Cross University in Australia.
My name's Arina Pollard, and I'm a biologist. Work at Macquarie University in Sydney, Australia. I teach 2 courses: reproduction, health and social issues, and introduction to bioscience ethics.
My name is Norito Tanida. I am a physician and I teach bioethics to the student. And I'm a member of IBA and also a board member of ABA.
My name is Jessica Nakashi. I'm a freelance writer and I'm doing an article on the mental mapping project for the Lancet Neurology, so I look forward to hearing your views on the project.
From this way? Okay. Thought we'd go back.
Please that way.
All right. My name's Tim Boyle. I'm a friend of Darryl's. I live here in Tsukuba. There's a community center at the United Church of Christ in Japan called the Tsukuba Christian Center where I work out of. And Darryl's asked me to present something on my ideas on the cultural interchange and that sort of thing.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rick Weisberg. I'm a citizen of the tertiary biota and living temporarily in Tsukuba, where I teach biology, and I'm also a PhD candidate in projection sciences under Dr. Mason. I don't know if I can ever graduate. But if any of you need something shown on the screen, I'll be happy to do my best to assist you. And I'm looking forward to talking with all of you more during the next few days. Thank you.
I'm Joan Liashenko from the University of Minnesota in the States, the Center for Bioethics. I teach nursing ethics, do some veterinary ethics, and some medical school. Currently working on nurses working in biomedical clinical trials and nurse-physician collaboration.
My name is Suniko Takanami. I'm from Japan. Well, I'm teaching at the College of Technology at Sayo University. My specialty is home health care and nursing ethics.
My name is Setsuko Morishita. I teach the fundamentals of nursing. Nursing department of College of Technical Medical Technology, Akkad University. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Chaman Deshuri, and I'm doing my PhD in International Law at the University of Sheffield in the UK. But presently, I'm on the fellowship at the United Nations University, and my main area is looking into the common heritage concept and how it's connected to the human genome. And today, I'm going to present something on a global idea of human dignity. And for me, it's going to be a learning process, so I hope you help me learn more about this concept, about interactive bioethics. Thank you.
My name is Shiro Matsuda. I'm a pediatrician and also a geneticist. Actually, I'm Professor Emeritus, so my age is 70 years old. That's why I'm Professor Emeritus in Japan. So anyhow, also I am a president of the Japanese Society of Human Genetics. So this is my position. Thank you.
Okay, go to the side.
My name is Natsuko Ueda. I am a student of the University of Tsukuba. Thank you.
My name is Yoshie Jinzu. I'm a student of study methods in the English class.
Good morning. My name is Masakazu Inaba from Japan. I'm a second year graduate student in doctoral course, and I'm a student of Darryl. And I'm studying public acceptance of biotechnology. Nice to meet you.
Good morning. My name is Eiko Suda. I'm studying bioethics in Professor Mace's lab. I'm studying my program from this lab. My main interest is in clinical genetics. Nice to meet you.
I'm Mary Ann Chen. I'm from the Philippines. I will be studying in April under Professor Mason. Nice to meet you all.
My name is Meenakshi Bhardwaj. I come from India, but I have been studying under Darryl for 4 years now, doing my PhD in bioethics and particularly focusing on governance issues and public policy, something what Steve Collins is interested in. And that's what I'm going to finish my courses here very soon. Nice to meet you too.
Good morning, I'm Makina Kato. I have been studying bioethics under Darryl for several years, and I'm a PhD candidate here. And my research theme is that I'm interested in biotech companies or companies related to biotechnology, how they should deal with these bioethical issues. Thank you.
There's one more, two more.
Good morning, my name is Kunika Nila. I'm a third-year undergraduate student, and I joined the research laboratory since last November. Thank you.
And Yoshi, please introduce yourself behind the camera.
Good morning.
Make sure your navel buttons are
I'm sorry. My name is Yoshinobu Eto. I'm an undergraduate student of Darryl's laboratory. I will give a presentation on Monday. Thank you.
And there are several persons who are still running around trying to, in fact, find one or two lost people in Tsukuba. And we'll find other people coming to this conference from today and throughout today. If you have any questions, please ask one of them, the people in the staff, who most of them are wearing a blue dot, but generally you'll find us. We usually have a tradition to use first names for everyone in both my laboratory and also in this meeting. So if you dislike that, please tell us an alternative name. And as I say, I usually do not introduce anyone's background as an introduction in these meetings. We try to be informal and frank. And I'm going to start. I have also usually chair the whole meeting, including my own talk. So I have a clock, which I won't let you see the time on. We would like everyone to finish in 10 minutes, so we have ample time for discussion. I'm going to start. I have a magic show here. We cannot have a look yet. So the Behaviourome and the proposal for an integrative idea map. What is the basic idea? Can we turn the lights off, please? Or some of the lights. Dim the lights. Thank you. Well, here it is. Here's the basic idea. Food, isn't that? But let us think where it is. Where is the ideas? Where do they come from? Is it inside our head? Do you think? Is it inside our DNA? It is in the DNA, of course, as we know, genetics, or maybe not. Some of us might say you must be joking. What are the ideas of the penguin? What are the ideas of the human? I think we need to start a study to examine this scientifically from many disciplines. It's all food for thought. So are penguins and so are you. At least that's what the polar bears might say. So my intention to announce the next challenge is to map the human mind was to try to gather together people from around the world and from many disciplines to chart a territory of ideas, vast but conceivably not infinite. And the Nature editor said the human genome has been largely sequenced, and work continues to the proteome and transcriptome. Now comes a call to map the human behaviourome. So that's what we'd like to do in the next few days, is to reconceptualize bioethics in terms of mapping the behaviourome. The behaviourome. One of the most interesting questions before a thinking being is whether we can comprehend the ideas and thoughts of other beings, and conversely, whether they can also read our mind. I would argue that we already have a means to embark upon a human mental map with the goal of describing the diversity of ideas a human makes in any given situation or dilemma. This is the behaviourome, or human mental map. This is not a physical structure, but a map of ideas. Uses of a mental map include to understand ourselves and whether the number of ideas is really finite. 2, to compare mental maps and idea diversity between persons and species. 3, to aid in policy making, to make policy that respects the diversity of people in a culture and globally. And this would help develop bioethics for the people, by the people. It has uses for individual decision making. 4, if we can make individual mental maps, this would offer persons assistance when making moral decisions. This would give them a chance to consider all their ideas and to make a more considered moral choice. This would also be useful in testing and implementation of better bioethics education. A basic question is, are the number of human ideas finite? In 1994, based on the results of the International Bioethics Survey, which gathered opinions from over 6,000 persons in 10 countries on 150 questions of bioethics dilemmas, I proposed that the number of human ideas is finite. Since then, the evidence continues to suggest the number is finite and thus countable. And we will only know if the number of ideas is finite after we map them. The map will help us develop standards to recognize diversity. The development of biotechnology and use of humans in clinical trials in many countries raises fundamental questions about whether the standards used should be universal or local. The development of guidelines should be culturally sensitive in the way ethical, social, and legal aspects are considered. Having a map of human ideas will enable us to reflect more diversity of ideas into policy frameworks. We will have to pay attention to ensure it's used well and not used to dictate majority views to minorities. So how to build the map? How to unravel the brain? Could such a plan give us any gain? Might it not lead us to pain? If only we could open up your brain. Stop it now, don't show us how. I would feel just like a cow. Please put me back together. Is that your feeling? Well, let's look at how the example of the interplay between the multiple ideas and the choices between a single response to a dilemma. So let's imagine here we have a situation. This gives us a moral dilemma. And in response to this moral dilemma, we have to make some choices. We will process idea 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this will help us make a decision and then a response. There are other factors like time, memory, and experience which affect this and also feedback. Well, this is a map interplay published in the November issue of the Bias Journal, a longer version of a mental mapping paper that was introduced in Nature. what types of ideas did I suggest? Well, if we're going to count ideas, we have to think of some types, and I proposed 9 types. 1, conceptualization of physical objects. This is my Macintosh computer. 2, psychological meanings of images associated with objects. For example, red clock. This may have a color as well as an object. They have 2 meanings. It means your time. 3, memories. 4, plans for both short and long-term future. 5, intention to modify behavior of self. 6, intention to modify behavior of surrounding beings in the environment. 7, the processing of sensory states. 8, the inhibition of response based on immediate evolutionary benefit. So for example, memes. And 9, interactive conceptualization of ideas in a community-based response. Interactive ethics. Well, this was initial types of ideas, but this is clearly was not adequate to construct a map. So we needed an extra step. So the human mental map version 1, which is in this sheet, is a 3-dimensional model including points which represent ideas on a matrix for all the types of ideas. And I would put 9 colors at present, and I haven't actually put all the 9 colors of sticky labels on them. Maybe you'll help me in the coming days. The 6 sides of this map are the ideals of self-love, love of others, loving good, loving life, with 2 extra and very important dimensions added to bioethics. These are memories and hopes. The heritage is basic to our existence. As Rick introduced, subconsciously, he's a transient being. We have memories and hopes. We need to include these into our framework for bioethics. Memories include our biological, social, and spiritual heritage seen in biology, medicine, society, and religion. And we all hope that our moral decisions will be for the best. And I also want to make a note. This model does not necessarily exclude beings who cannot think, as they still share a memory, a history, and a future heritage, and the 4 principles. So this model is not just for thinking beings, although it's a mental map. So this is the basic construction of the mental map, and I'll put it in front here.
Now's the day.
All right.
Don't break it.
Thank you. So,
Need help?
okay. So I'm just going to have to move it over to the extension cord. Now let me explain. So here we have a mental map. Inside this box, we at present can only place 1,800 different ideas. Only 1,800 can be formed by this grid. But we can expand this grid to 10,000 or 20,000 or more, depending on what is necessary. Now, the 6 sides, you have to imagine the hopes, our memories. Okay? So this is a heritage. This dimension, loving good, and the front, loving life, do no harm. On the bottom, self-love, and on the top, loving others. So let me give you an example of where I would map an idea. If, for example, it was danger to myself, I'd map it towards the self-love side and towards the loving life side. So we'd map this idea here. If it is a danger to my family, I would map it more towards love of others, but still slightly towards self-love, and still on this side. If it was danger to the environment, then I'd map further up here, this one. And so on, we can map ideas. So this is my initial framework for mapping. And I think then what we can do is, let's imagine a dilemma, a moral dilemma, and we're going to trace people's thinking. So then we're going to map all their ideas and turn the lights off, please. Okay. So then we'll map this process and we will connect all these ideas together. And using different colors, we can map the different types of ideas according to the categories. Okay? So, of course, eventually we hope that this will be in the computer so it's easy to relay. But for my limited computer skills and also for trying to work out a framework, I found it easier to do it mechanically. So what we call practical bioethics in Frank's language. So then let's compare another moral dilemma for somebody else with the white lights. Okay? So then we can compare two people. Or we can likewise compare the process for two dilemmas. And eventually we will map all the ideas of the human mind for every sort of dilemma and then make a map, and everyone's map, different response will then be mapped onto this framework. Okay, so we have lots of Christmas tree lights, okay, for making this map. So if you can then visualize or extend this, this is what I'd like you to do. So by Tuesday, please let's progress this map to another stage and think about how we can do. Or else, if this is a useful model, then let's start mapping ideas onto this framework. And the number of ideas I think we'll have to work on. If we start with a couple of thousand, it's a good start, but we'll probably need 10,000. Okay. What happens if well, I'll turn the lights off now. So, all are welcome to join in the project to describe the human behaviourome. And thank you for attending the first meeting now. And please help me construct a map that will allow us an overarching theory of bioethics and decision making. And let's build a mental map together. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So maybe we have time for a few questions. They have the lights on. Thank you. Just let me put this mic. Irina, yes. And I'm going to pass the microphone because some people find it difficult to hear.
I really love your map, Darryl. It's beautiful. I just have one problem with it, that it's a box. I would like to see an escape hatch somewhere. What if our ideas are infinite and not finite, as I believe? Human potential. Over time, all of us, 6 billion, is infinite or incalculably large. So perhaps we can have a hole somewhere or a lifting up page.
Well, this is one of the basic ideas we need to discuss. Is a number of ideas finite or not? If we make the box bigger, or if we make another shape. Yes. And in fact, Frank is going to talk in his talk about this, which is printed in the abstract. Frank, you have a question?
Yeah. First place, there's a difference between infinite and incalculably large. You can have a huge, incalculably large finite number, than which you can have infinitely many
we need to define what we feel is infinite.
Large. But I'm going to go into my major skepticisms about Darryl's model later. I just wanted to ask, you have love as so central to all of your thinking, but I think that some people are motivated by hatred. And I don't think that you can that their hatred is a form of love. I think some people just claim hate. And so I think that if you wanted to map everybody's thoughts, you would want to put that in too.
Well, I would probably include hatred under self-love. Usually it's...
No, some people hate themselves too.
Thank you.
Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, for example.
Okay. Ali?
Thank you there. Actually, I wonder how... Thank you. You mentioned that we can use this map for dealing with some moral dilemma. And I wonder how you include cultural diversity for formulating such a map. Thank you.
Thank you. So basically we need to map every individual onto the ideas. So we would have a matrix of all the total ideas and then map the ones which appear in each individual and then compare different cultures using that. So I would plan to make a total map of all ideas and then to highlight which ideas are more common in each people and then individual maps and then compare cultures as well. We could also, for example, map historical literature into a map. It doesn't need to be individuals that we're mapping. We can map books into a mental map, as a representation of. Richard?
We have this conflict of where ideas are infinite or finite, but you divided your ideas up into certain classes, and I wonder if some of the classes are infinite and some of them are actually finite. And maybe the ones which are dealing with decision making and resolving disputes might be, maybe we only have a finite number of ideas to deal with those. But when we're talking about self-expression and things like that, maybe then those kind of ideas can be infinite. And evolution as well, yes. And the other thing, I realise that you've got a physical map there, so you're bound by the 3 dimensions of the space that we actually live in. But you have this, this map implies that these things on the opposite sides are self-exclusive, or that one increasing one decreases the other. What you really need is a 6-dimensional map, which I realise you can't actually build here. But you need a 6-dimensional map in the computer, and if you use that kind of map, and I think you can deal with the problem which Frank is talking about of hatred and love by having a scale from 0 to maybe infinity. Then hatred would be, absolute hate would be down at 0, and love would be up at the other end. And so I think that maybe some of the problems that people have raised could be dealt with in that way.
Thank you, it's a good idea. I found it difficult to make 6 dimensions.
Yes.
With the flashing lights, I got the 4 dimensions, and that was all I could do with this. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, well, in fact, I think the time, I should exercise time restraint as well. So, this map will be in the front of the room through the conference, and of course, as I said, I've only put about 4 ideas on here. I think we can put many more. The next talk is from Irina Pollard, and she's from Australia. And to choose between cooperation and annihilation, a mental mapping project towards more generously directed altruism.
Fundamentally, I want to talk a little bit about nature and how we've actually moved ourselves from nature and maybe having some ideas of getting back towards a more natural existence. So fundamentally, the design principles of nature are based on cooperation, biological feedback, adaptation to change by promoting ecological diversity. A whole of evolution, the most successful strategy has been cooperation. We are interrelated and nature works on mutualism in symbiotic systems. Competition is not a very adaptive strategy, so it's minimized in evolution. Despite ourselves as looking at competition being the mainstream in nature, we're looking at nature as being read in tooth and claw. It's not like that. So we also have fundamental strategies. Our design principles are based on free choice, flexible intelligence, and risk balancing. So I think in using this flexibility and choice and balancing of risk, especially in this time of real warfare and stress, we may be able to change our mental map towards a more cooperative way and base it according to nature. To show you an example, I want to talk a little bit about the sperm war theory. Now, up to now, the scientific literature is full of what they call sperm wars. Now, sperm competition theory posits a post-copulatory perspective of sexual selection, which states that as sperm competition increases, males are expected to invest more. In times of female promiscuity, there is a system set up of sperm competition. And the idea was that each sperm competes against each other's sperm to win the egg. And this cartoon shows this quite nicely. The sperms, they're all individual, they bring gifts, and they all hope to actually win the race for fertilization. This sperm war theory is very popular with the scientists. They love this competition theory, and so do everyone else. I mean, that went through the literature, it's been there for decades. However, only very recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, when we're looking at nature in a more objective way, we realize that sperm competition is not really the main strategy, that with in reproduction and reproductive success, there is cooperation, altruism, as well as competition. And that's been shown, examples in the mollusks, the insects, South American marsupials. For example, that in the first mammalian example with the marsupials, it shows that as soon as the sperm get into the female reproductive tract, they form pairs. And the two pairs move much faster than single ones. And of course, one of them will be altruistic and helping the other one get closer to the egg, so it's sacrificed. Now, recent work, which is in Nature 2002, has shown that it's also in the Ethereum mammals. And a very good example is like in the wood mouse, where as soon as the sperm is released, they have this hook-like structure, and they hook up within 1 minute, and by 5 minutes you have huge sperm trains of hundreds of thousands of sperm. So these trains move extremely fast towards the egg, and most of them actually undergo the acrosome reaction, which means that if they undergo acrosome reaction removed from the egg, they lose the capacity to fertilize, so they altruistically have helped one of them to maybe get on. So this is nature. Now, I think that we, in our conflict, our balance has gone all wrong. Warfare is that a fitness enhancement or losing strategy. The hostile actions of war can be perceived as ecocide, or the deliberate attempt to destroy the ecology that sustains life. What is happening in the modern time, modern equipment and money, and it's just, I think, just appalling. More and more resources are wasted on sophisticated weaponry capable of increased speed, longer range activity and self-deployment. If we learned a bit more cooperation and diplomacy, what can we do with that money that's being blown up and destroys the environment? Is this the sort of human beings we want to be ending up being? The destruction of our international commons is not an adaptive strategy. International militarism in the form of war and preparations for war is the greatest ongoing threat to sustainability and survival into the future. Poisoning our neighbour and wasting common commodities are not matters of privacy or national sovereignty. They are serious ethical offences. And we know this because we are part of nature. We haven't evolved separately. And I've found an interesting quote here from Aristotle, thousands of years ago. A historical perspective on cooperation. Man is by nature a social creature. An individual who is unsocial naturally and not accidentally is either beneath our notice or more than human. Society is something in nature that precedes the individual. Anyone who either cannot lead the common life or is so self-sufficient as not to need and therefore does not partake of society is either a beast or a god. Now, do we want to actually place ourselves above or below nature? So, since we humans are not but one member of the Earth, diverse community, and dependent on our ecological interdependence, we have to quickly mature as a species and employ both intellectual and emotional intelligences. Up to now, we've used intellectual intelligence, science, technology, that uses intellectual intelligence. It's time now we develop our big reserve of emotional intelligence. So from developing emotional intelligence, I think perhaps we can come out with 3 points. In terms of ethics, environmental ethics must become the grounding for all ethics and all of life-centered world view, or as Darryl puts it, a love-centered world view. Concern for the well-being of future generations must include human as well as non-human beings as part of ethics accountability. We are a symbiotic society. We cannot live without our fellow creatures. We have an ethical duty to steward them. If we do not become accountable to the sustainable well-being of the whole planet, we will be excluded from the union of life. Life has been moving on for more than 3 billion years, very successfully without the human species. If we're going to exclude ourselves and take our quaternary species with us, thankfully we can't destroy life itself, but life will go on, but it will go on without us. The choice is us, and we have got free choice. This is a sort of mental map with open spaces, where I think if we can look at now with science and technology, we have destroyed so much of the earth that we really do need some stewardship. Science, ourselves, we have to actually help the earth to heal itself a little bit. So we need to be sharing a little bit. The biosphere and the human needs, they both draw from the biophysical environment. The environment has environmental imperatives, which we've been destroying up to now. And there's human activity. But we can have an open give and take by saying human understanding, if with new understandings, maybe some cultural traditions need to be changed, okay, change them. Let's cooperate more rather than compete. And then very quickly attitudinal change can come about. So I would like to actually propose a sort of part of an ideas map, something like a bioscience, bioethics, friendship cooperative. Bioscience being the interface between practical science and technology and practical bioethics. Because for real bioethical consideration, we do need to understand some of these scientific, technological changes that have happened in our society. Friendship as being part of love, and cooperative. Cooperatives are based on democratic principles and function by using elements of altruism, generosity, and open-minded pursuit of common goals. In order to survive, we must stock our mind map with goodwill, creative intelligence, and emotional wisdom. We may even find, for individual, if we actually move towards a more ecocentric, a more loving direction, that the road to eco-justice may be the road to our own enlightenment. Or we may even go back to what we used to know thousands of years ago and seem to have forgotten in the race with more and more sophisticated technology. So by using nature's methods, we will survive adaptively and contribute positively within the union of life. After all, we have a head start as humans, are the evolutionary growing edge of the impulse in nature towards consciousness and kindness. We have got a mind, let us use it to full extent in all its directions and all its facets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irina. Frank?
I don't know if I need that. No. Irina, I was very interested in what you said about sperm cooperation. I've always been very interested in the way in which a female dog, a bitch, can get pregnant from several dogs at once. First place, it's very interesting to see how there's some fighting among the males, but they usually just wait in line very patiently for their turn. And then when she has a litter, you see different puppies from different fathers. What goes on inside her reproductive system? Do you know anything about that? What goes on? What are the relationships among the sperm from the different dogs once they get inside of her?
Yeah, that's exactly right. With the wood mouse too, the females are quite promiscuous. The litters are usually from several sires. Now that's adaptive because then in evolution the offspring are not just from the one sire, so there is more variation. And if their mining changes, some may be better adapted to survive than others. So that's evolutionary adaptive. Now with your dogs, mice, perhaps humans, because they're pretty promiscuous as well, there is a sperm competition set up between different individuals, and that's why you have these sperm trains in the wood mouse. These are all related from the same individual, so they band together. They say, let us at least let our genes win, even if I don't myself. So they form these trains and move fast, and hopefully they move faster than somebody else's train. Yeah. There are indications that human semen also forms trains, but I haven't seen a republication yet. But I find those, I'm a reproductive biologist, so I take examples from my background reading. I find those new writings very, very interesting. Because and in the first book I wrote, I had a whole chapter on sperm competition, and I felt uncomfortable about writing it. I thought, that can't be true. Instinctively, I didn't like it, but it was the knowledge. So yes, I'm very happy that we're having a look at a more balanced view at nature and evolution. Any other questions?
Any other questions? People are very strangely quiet.
Maybe the sperm pulled them off.
Oh, Irina?
Well, I got it. I was just curious. I had never heard about sperm cooperation like this, and I was. How does that fit in with the basic premise of survival of the fittest? I'm a little bit fuzzy at that one. Can you elaborate a little bit?
It's not exactly survival of the fittest in that sense, because a sperm with a mutation could very well win. So you could have, say human fertility turns at 20 million per cc, 20 million cells per cubic centimetre of seminal fluid. Below that, the male becomes reasonably infertile. So there is so much competition, so the quality cannot be graded. So the idea is to have diversity in variety, and hopefully in evolution then, if there's a larger diversity, there is more to select from. So yes, some adverse characteristics actually are very fit from the point of view of reproduction. Huntington's disease, for example, that is a deadly wasting disease, but it expresses itself later in life. But generally speaking, the behaviour of the people who carry the Huntington mutation are much more promiscuous and produce a larger number of offspring, and that's how that gene actually selfishly selects itself by having changed the behaviour of the carrier. So fitness, we have to modify the Darwinian fitness and have a more neo-Darwinian look at evolution. Yeah.
And I think
That's fascinating ideas there. I didn't know that about the sperm as well. But one question that I have concerns the use of the term altruism to describe what we're seeing, because to me altruism implies a conscious choice being made by an individual to behave in a non-selfish manner. And when we see sperm acting in that manner, it's hard to see that as altruistic without imparting to that sperm the ability to make a conscious choice. So I'm wondering, is it really altruism, or are we merely seeing living matter behaving in a natural fashion? In other words, it's not able to make a choice. Should I cooperate with my fellow sperm, or should I not cooperate? It seems to be programmed into the genes that it will be that way.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. In my view, I think that it's something in between. But altruism is an anthropomorphic term. It's probably a false description. Altruism, really, the definition of altruism means that you sacrifice yourself for kin. Now, if you have the sperm within the one individual, they're all kin. It's one ejaculate with millions of them. So a certain proportion will sacrifice themselves so that one of their kin will go through. Now, if you were altruistically saving a child, say you have a child and you can see that child drowning, you go into the water, you drag out your child and you drown yourself. That was an altruistic act because you saved your kin, you're sharing genes. Now the younger your child will then reproduce your genes through their children. So that's the definition of altruism. So in that case it's correct. With the consciousness, in the human sense, it could be an altruistic action, could be a conscious action. Now I don't think that that is conscious. It's evolution, it's the basis, it's an example that nature has evolved through symbiosis and cooperation. It's just another very new example in the last couple of years. That's why I thought it would be interesting to bring it to a bioethical forum, because not many people outside the discipline know that or have read that literature. But it is just an example of how nature is based on cooperation, on symbiosis. I mean, we're just walking colonies. I mean, Rick would probably, you've given similar work on your water work. Everything you look at is a whole community of creatures working together to maintain that community. And this competition is only a very small part of it. But we have blown this out in our minds to the exclusion of almost everything else, that we've forgotten how we rely on everyone else to even exist. We wouldn't exist for a second without our commensals helping us and allowing us to exist. And yet we're killing them off without even a thought. So I get your point, but yeah.
Okay, Lana, the last question, please.
you. So regarding this sperm cooperation, because the other spermatozoid is normal. Both of the sperms are normal biologically. I mean, they have the same structure or motility less or more. No, in the mammals, insects, mollusks, where it has been demonstrated, all the sperm, they're the same. They don't have any physiological different characteristics, but they're genetically different, of course, because they went through meiosis. So they're all genetically different, but the same population, so to speak. There is an interesting example in the woodlouse, where they have two sorts of sperm. The woodlouse mates normally and has normal sperm, which go through the female woodlouse's reproductive tract until the egg and fertilization takes place and so on. But the woodlouse also has some very aggressive large sperm, and the male actually injects these through anywhere in the skin of the woodlouse, and these sperm are so aggressive they actually invade the tissues and invade into the reproductive tissue, destroying the destroying some of the tissue to get there quickly for fertilization. So I don't know if you're thinking about that example. That is a unique example of evolution where sperm cooperation went even further to have sperm differentiation, and you have different populations of sperm that have different functions to maximize fertilization.
I think actually we're going to have to start.
I'll
Let's
wait
go on
till-
to the next
I'll ask
speaker.
Dave the same question.
So,
If my memory is, that's okay?
yes, I'll give you
I give you a time. How much? Yes, if my memory is correct, Dawkins said that only human being has can teach the altruism. In other words, in the case of the sperm collaboration, could be explained by selfish gene, because they own gene. So that's why only to give something for only for other people. It's not in the I don't say like that it's not that there is no blood correlation. In that case, we can say only the very. In other words, altruism probably separated two types. One is for the something you give to your children. In that case, you said probably it's altruism, but it's not altruism. Altruism is this kind of phenomenon can be explained by selfish gene.
Yes, of course. Altruism is selfish because when you're saving your own genes. But you can adopt a child that is totally unrelated to you, and you will give your life for an adopted child.
Yeah.
That's altruistic.
Yeah, yes, that's right. This was only for the human beings can do that. And then, as
Don't know. I think whales can adopt.
No. I'm talking about as Dawkins said that.
Yeah.
Dawkins said that this is only human being can do that. It's altruism. And also this probably accomplished by education. It's very important.
Yeah, I know. I find Richard Dawkins' writings and the selfish gene very interesting, but I am a little bit skeptical. I think he is on one side of selfism, and he's based his claim on that theory. So I think it would be really hard for him to perhaps back down completely. I think the truth is our genes are not as selfish as Dawkins portrays. There is again a balance, and health is balance.
Yeah,
so that,
I know that.
yes.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that argument about Dawkins, but I would like to say that there is two types of the altruism. Probably two types.
Yeah.
I would like to say that.
Yeah. Altruism can be, if it's core kin, if you share genes, then you can think of it being as a selfish survival of your genes. If you actually help other organisms, and which is, I suppose, this box will do, across species, that would be altruism across species of life.
That's right. Yeah.
That altruism in the Gaia sense of being with all part of life. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Irina. Very interesting report. So the next talk, and the last talk before morning tea, is Dr. Frank Lebet on the arguments of a great philosopher's... Oh, no, sorry.
Unless he's yielding his time to me.
Dr. Jaya Porzaria from India, The Multiple Facets and Fantasies of the Asian Mind. And he's going to use PowerPoint for the first time. Thank you.
I want to say two things as introduction. With Dennis' permission, I think we should recognize Professor Shinagawa, who has come, the senior-most person. The second point is that I was locked up in a small cage, not knowing how to come out to speak. So I was thinking of an escape hatch. Then I thought of coming under the table, altruistically putting myself into trouble, but then there was a small passage. So I think for solving any problem, we need cooperation. Darryl lifted the cage down and we moved the table. So I would like to go into this topic of the ancient mind. Usually we have different compartments of our personality. Usually we divide Cartesian dualism of mind and body, but I would like to divide into 5 components. So what is inside the mind? It's just like asking what is inside of darkness. If you know the answer, then we have the answer for the question. So I think what we should do is we should keep mind as a black box and not knowing what's inside, then find out the outworking of this mind. So the next question is, where is this mind and what is inside of this mind? So next one. So in 1990, the US Senate declared the decade of the brain, 2000 decade of the mind, Susan Greenfield. So I propose that this century be declared as the century of the mapping of the mind, and I think it takes 100 years at least to map the entire human mind of humanity. So usually we know that we say that an idea comes from a mind. So an idea is associated with the mind, and if you have a dictionary meaning of mind, it talks about memory and thinking. So we say that human beings are neurobiological beings. But the question is, where is this memory? Is it only in the brain? As Darryl has pointed out, it's also in the DNA, but memory is also in the blood, in the immune system. It knows how to recognize the pathogen and it can attack. So I agree with the Zen Buddhist idea of not having body and mind, but saying body-mind. So mind is all over the body. And so we are not neurobiological beings, but we are essentially bioneurological beings. So mind is like a plant planted in a small container like this. If you have a big tree in a small container, the plant cannot grow into a tree, but it will be a miniature one. So the mind is like a fish in an aquarium. Size of the aquarium determines the size of the fish. So the mind also is like that. The container in which you keep the mind determines the extent of your mind. So what are the two containers? The two containers are, one, the West is the materialistic, technological oriented, the East, which is spiritual. So the spiritual and the mechanistic worldviews are the two containers. And so the question is it in the body components or in the soul or in the spirit? So is there any difference between Asian mind and the Western mind? So the Ayurvedic dictum is you are the product of your food. Whatever food you eat, the food that you eat determines your behavior. You are also a product of our ancestors. And so food is related to the mind. And so there will be a lot of questions, does mind grow or mind age? Or ideas created? Does mind produce an ideology? These questions can be discussed later. So the Indian philosophy is that mind, however, we cannot, however, understand how the mind can speculate freely and remodel life when it is filled with weariness and overcome by the feeling of hopelessness. So for a productive mind, we need a life free of burdens. So we recognize that mind inconstant and unstable must be studied into an unruffled lake. So we have in India the yogic way of meditation, and buddhi is the power of understanding and discrimination. So the mind has to be trained and to bring it into agreement with the spiritual view of the universe. So spirituality is the basic container in which we grow our mind. And we continue, next one please. So the Vedic people had different way of training the mind. Next one please. So we say that idea is a mental process. And what is a mental process and where does it take place? A mental process cannot be assessed since it happens within an unknown region called cyberspace of human person. And we may infer that the process takes place in the cyber mental compartment of human spirit. So do we associate mind with the body or with the spirit? So since idea is a non-material, so if idea is a non-material in its composition. Next one, please. So however, a non-biological technical process per se may not be able to form or generate an idea since it is a product of human creativity. Such creative ideas are commonly referred to as bright ideas. So how do we measure a bright idea? Maybe all the lights in Darryl's box have uniform brightness. So we should have different lights with different brightness. That's going to be a complicated mechanism. So next one, please. So an idea is a chain. No one can claim ownership for an idea. And I wrote this paper while I was listening to another conference for 5 days. So when I heard all other people talking, some ideas came to mind, so I wrote this paper. So we cannot claim ownership for anyone's idea. Therefore, no single person can claim originality for an idea that is generated. It is not possible to claim ownership. And one way by which a bright idea can be measured is by which it is orally expressed or verbally, what I call it, expression product. So once you express your product once you express your idea, it ceases to be natural. This paper is artificial. So what I put on a paper becomes artificial and ceases to be natural. Next one, please. So I want to propose what are the bioequivalents to mind, since we know that mind and DNA has this memory. So I say that the bioequivalent of the gene could be neurogene or neurome. As an entire component of this, it could be neuronome or neurome or neurome. So any of this, three of this one name you can choose. So I choose neurogene and neurome. So if you want to recognize the components of this neurome, then there could be religion, spirituality, conscience, mind itself, will, intellect, and all these things. And if you read the quarterly review of biology by Mueller-Hill, he says that about conscience, that it comes forth from an unknown structure of human brain. Whether conscience in the human brain or in the body, we have to assess. And he says that it comes before religion and it grows with true religion. So mind is associated with religion and it grows with spirituality. Next one, please. So coming to the last point, mind, patenting of mind. Can we patent a mind? Since mind is a biological component of human body, and according to patent law, mind cannot, any part of the human body cannot be patented. So mind cannot be patented, an idea cannot be patented, and the idea, when it's expressed as a product, then it can be patented. So mind enhancement, can we do it? And if you read Vedic literature, we know that there are certain herbs which will increase your mind power, will produce more ideas. And we also know that the drug addiction can change your mindset, can change your emotional status. And people have mentioned that it could be genetics may also be used as a mental enhancement. And in the future, we can have a cyborgs where a machine could enhance intelligence and mind. So we are going into many dimensions. So this is the one that is talks about that when she dies, she will in all likelihood be able to have her mind backed up onto a network and uploaded into an Android body. So So we have lots of ideas about mind, and I think that's the last. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. Questions? Frank?
I don't think I need that.
But others need it. Others need it.
Okay. No, can you hear me, can't you? Okay.
Pardon?
Professor Jayapal was speaking about Asia being the spiritual center of the world. Okay. I want to raise a question based on, we were talking about the fantasies of the Asian mind. I've been very interested in Asian thought in the last few years, much more than anything else, I think. And I read an English translation of an abridged version of the Mahabharata, which is an ancient Hindu book, okay? And there's a story there that I want to tie what you're saying together with a comment I have on Irena. Brahma created the world.
Brahman.
Brahma.
Yeah, not Raman.
Yeah. Brahman, okay. Brahman, okay. And the, you're right, Brahman.
I'm right.
I'm asking you, you're the Asian, more than me, you're farther east than I am. And the world started to get crowded with people. There were too many people, and there was no room for any other creatures, okay? They started to take over the whole world, overcrowded, okay? The goddess of death, whose name you will remind me. No, goddess of death.
Yama.
Huh?
Yama.
Yama, yeah. She comes to Brahman, and she says, I'll solve the problem, Brahma. I'll solve the problem for you. I'll just kill them off. He says, no problem, don't worry. I will create greed and jealousy and hatred, and then they'll solve the problem themselves. The humans will solve the population problem themselves. Now what I'm wondering is, maybe some of these bad emotions, maybe even war, they're bad for us, okay? But maybe for the entire biosphere, there's a positive function here in reducing the overpopulation of the planet by human beings and making more space for other creatures. We say that, well, through atomic war, we're going to make it impossible for anything to live. But we don't know what might be left. In other words, maybe if we think in the big view of existence as a whole, rather than just from the point of view of human beings, maybe these bad things have really a positive aspect. That's my question.
I will not agree with it because you cannot legalize an illegal thing. Greed and other things are not bioethically accepted. So if you say that, it will go against this model. So I will say that the best way to reduce population is to advocate GM food. If everybody eats GM food, they will be naturally be infertile. Naturally be infertile.
Oh, infertile. Really?
So that's the best way in this context to reduce the population.
I think that the wars reduce population is a fallacy because after each conflict there is a rebound fertility. I was saying that wars and population reduction is a fallacy because after wars and conflict there's rebound fertility. Also, it kills the most productive people in society. So now that we are smart enough to have contraceptives, we all know we can have unlimited growth in a limited environment and prolonging our life. So we either accept modern medicine and contracept, or we don't accept modern medicine and die young. But for this other thing of are we a transitional species to open up other opportunities?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? I believe we may well be a very intelligent, non-adaptive species for ourselves in the short term, opening up opportunities for other critters. Why not? Yeah. That's why I feel I'm not a pessimist because I know we can't destroy life. We can destroy ourselves. It's our choice, but we can't destroy life. So things are going to move on. It's good.
Is there any question from someone who hasn't spoken? Or?
Well, this question is directed with both Paul and Darryl. I was going to ask earlier where spirituality would be in that framework. And I thought Darryl might say something like, well, it has to be in love of others or somewhere else. But he would have to say that because of the limited number of sides in this box. And the idea of spirituality and of culture, as mentioned earlier, suggests that there are other sides and other dimensions, actually. And the trouble with mapping is that it means having to impose a certain number of dimensions on something which might have more than that. I mean, you need to go somewhere and you look it up in a map, and your map will have length and width, but you don't see on the map that you're going up or going down. Okay? So you have a flattened version of something. To have a map of this sort is to have, in a way, a flattened version of something. In other words, to reduce it into a certain number of dimensions. And I don't know if it will be fair to try to reduce human ideas into a map which has, I think, so many dimensions. And to say that spirituality or culture or even hatred, as Frank mentioned earlier, would fit into this number of sides is unfair, because I think it is to impose a Darrylian framework on our human ideas. So there must be a room somewhere for so many more dimensions that we can map.
Yes. A circle has no dimension. It has no options. There's only one room. A square has got four sides. But I will suggest it could be a polyhedron. Then we can have a square, we can have a rectangle, we can have a triangle, so number of sides can be increased. So that could be the nearest way of solving this problem. A polyhedron type of model will be good.
Since you're talking about the Indian mind, I'd rather like to put it as Indian thought rather than Indian mind. I was thinking about one of the Vedic ideas about chitta, which is roughly equivalent to memory perhaps, but it's not really memory because I cannot sort of recall my chitta in the sense, but the chitta exists. It in fact drives me to get into an act. So basically it drives an idea and then the idea drives the act. So how would you sort of fit that into where?
That's why the Vedic idea was memorizing and rechanting. Daily they were chanting the mantras and memorizing it. So it brings back to the memory what they have learned earlier. And also we have Surti, the oral way of remembering things. So the mind forgets. The more you learn, the more you forget. So the best way to recollect to your mind and say it out. So they have both the oral tradition and written tradition, and mind being always occupied with memorizing and chanting.
I think chitta is a little bit different in the sense you don't actually learn it. It's something that exists there, which according to your karma, which is interconnected in a particular way, it falls into you. You can't really reach up to it and get hold of it and then use it for your purposes. And it's something that you can't learn, basically. Maybe you can take it up further.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to stop. I'll make some response to Leo. Thank you very much, Jay, for very interesting. I think it was important for me not to disclose anything of the details of my map before this morning, because it leads to more creativity, and everyone can make a mental map, and then we can all learn. Responding to Leo's question before we break, even if this was a sphere, which was more of the image I had in mind, but I can't make a sphere mechanically, I'm sorry. I tried my Meccano set from childhood, and it was so small that it wouldn't really make a model. So I, in the end, had to go and make this. Even if we did include a sphere, the source of each idea could be different for each person, the same idea. Okay? So we imagine we have a point in this map, which is an idea. The source could be different, a different idea. Now, so that would be an added dimension. We'd need the other dimension to add it. So I would use the spirituality, I would have to use my fifth or sixth dimension into the map, rather than changing the 3 or 4 dimensions here. But I think it can be built in. Okay. So now we're going to have a morning tea break for until 11 a.m. And I'm sorry, as the signs have said, because the room has been done up, please do not bring anything except water into this room. I think water will not stain any carpet and things, but please do not bring anything else. And you can bring ideas. Sorry. Okay, so please help yourself. Morning tea is ready. Sakai is prepared. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Eiko, what's up? Eiko, please. Sit down. Okay. I usually speak sort of impromptu, so that rather than reading a paper, I typed it up, and anybody who wants to look at it can take a look at it. I think that every project needs a devil's advocate, and I'm highly skeptical about Darryl's project. One, I want to raise the question about whether our thoughts are, possible thoughts are infinite or finite. If you can represent every thought by some sort of a physical token, like say a sentence in a language, then you can prove that the number of possible human thoughts is finite. Some linguistics have said the opposite. Linguists have said the opposite. However, if you consider that a language, let's suppose that you have 26 letters in a language, okay, a finite number of letters. Any sentence is going to have a finite number of letter places. That is to say, the same letter can repeat itself, but you could have a 28-letter sentence or a 30-letter sentence or whatever you like, okay? Now, you might think that you can get infinitely many sentences by iteration, what is called in mathematics. That is to say, I had a beer, and then I had another 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 beer, okay? And you can get as many of these as you like, okay? For any length you like. However, the human ability to speak or think a sentence is limited because we don't live forever. You are going to get a finite number of sentences that take 1 second to say, to think or to pronounce, a finite number which will take 2 seconds, a finite number which will take a whole day to pronounce, a finite number of sentences which are going to take 1,000 years to pronounce, okay? So even though theoretically you can get to infinite, you will, if you have infinitely many different sentences, you will have also no end of sentences which take more time to pronounce than any human being can live. So consequently, the number of sentences that's possible for a human being to think will be finite, and this seems to back up Darryl. That's on condition that the, thanks Rick, and you're also relieved for a few minutes because there's no, I have no PowerPoint, no slides, no nothing. Right. No, I don't know, that's exactly the point, okay? If my thoughts are in my head, okay, then maybe I can represent them in terms of brain states or neurons or DNA or something like that, okay? And again, get a finite number of possibilities, okay? However, I don't know that my thoughts are in the head. There is a philosophical tradition beginning actually with Plato, but some of the most famous people are Descartes, Berkeley, Hume. I'm talking about Western philosophy. Later on, Bertrand Russell, the logical positivists in Vienna in the 1920s and early 1930s, who have argued that thoughts cannot be in the body, in a physical body, because we have no conception of a physical body. What I'm saying is that if I think about what can I think about, okay? What am I aware of? I am only aware in my experience of colors. I don't see you. I see the colors which are in my subjective perception of you. And what Irena sees might be different from what I see. Certainly from a different perspective, because she's from here. Maybe with different colors, maybe with different capabilities of eyesight. Some people see things blurry, other people see things clear, okay? Subjective perception. We hear sounds which are also subjective, okay? The sound that I hear depends on the hearer and on the medium. I don't hear I don't hear you, I hear something inside me, okay? I don't feel. You would think, well, through tactile sensation, I'm getting the real object, okay? But I don't feel the table. I feel a sensation inside me. And I might feel something smooth, and you might feel it rough, depending on your ability of your skin to feel. So everything we are experiencing is really not out there in any world, but in us, okay? We do not have any, I'm summarizing something which takes about a month to explain in a philosophy course, and I'm summarizing it in about 2 minutes, okay? But we have no conception of a physical body, okay? Because we think that maybe there's a body out there, your body, which causes me to have these visual perceptions. But I have never had any experience of a body. I've never had any experience of